There's this Dutch company, around 400 years old, and its value is simply staggering. Imagine combining the market caps of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and even Saudi Aramco, and you still wouldn't reach the valuation of this 400-year-old enterprise. When we think about capitalism, wealth creation, and old money, the first names that come to mind are often the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers. But there's this quiet Dutch company that changed everything. They created the world's first corporation, the first stock exchange, and the first IPO. And remarkably, this company is still around today. So, buckle in. Today, we're diving into the strange and fascinating story of the Dutch East India Company, known as the VOC, and the House of Orange. Let's go back to 1580. Spain has just taken over Portugal, merging two global powers under one monarchy. Suddenly, Spain controls Portugal's overseas empire, and the balance of power across the seas shifts dramatically. The Dutch saw this as a massive threat. Technically part of Spain, they were fighting for independence. Now, they faced an even more powerful adversary. They knew they couldn't match Spain and Portugal with guns alone. So, they built a new kind of weapon, private capital. In 1602, 7 private trading companies merged to form what we now call the VOC, the Dutch East India Company. Its name reflected its focus on trade with the East Indies, what we now know as Indonesia, Malaysia, and surrounding regions. On the surface, it looked like any other merchant company. But underneath, it was a machine of economic power. Armed ships, private armies, fortified posts across the globe, and for the first time in history, ordinary Dutch citizens could buy shares and profit from imperial expansion. This was wealth generated at scale through markets, not tied to land or inherited titles. The VOC could grow larger than kingdoms without a monarch, without raising taxes, and behind this ambitious enterprise, the House of Orange quietly observed. One of the most prominent dynasties in Europe, they held no kingdoms, no real land, but they had influence. Their nobility mattered little in a merchant-driven republic, squeezed between Amsterdam's elites and Spain's ambitions. So, the House of Orange made a choice: fade into irrelevance or adapt. They didn't have feudal lands or silver mines, but they had capital, and they used it wisely. By financing and aligning with the VOC, they tied their future to the company's expansion. This wasn't symbolic. Their involvement gave them leverage in a republic where legacy no longer guaranteed power. Decades later, it became official. High-ranking officials from the House of Orange, such as William IV and V, became stadtholders, essentially controlling both the VOC and the West India Company, which traded with the Americas. Through these positions, the House of Orange rose from nobility to a power backed by dividends. They were still without crowns, yet their influence was undeniable. The VOC didn't operate like a business, it moved like a sovereign state. At its peak, its valuation today would be equivalent to $7.9 trillion, dwarfing the largest modern companies. During the VOC's golden era, over 1 million Dutch citizens sailed to Asia as part of its workforce: sailors, clerks, soldiers, craftsmen, building trade empires across Java, Bengal, and beyond. These employees ran ports, guarded warehouses, negotiated with local rulers, and enforced Dutch interests, often at gunpoint. The VOC thrived on 3 pillars: a powerful state charter, Amsterdam's financial elite, and strategic backing from the House of Orange. Its charter was more than a trade license, it was effectively a sovereign mandate. The company could sign treaties, raise armies, capture territories, and govern colonies. Every move carried the weight of a sovereign flag, even though it came from a corporate boardroom. With nearly 150 merchant ships, 50,000 employees, and 10,000 private soldiers, the VOC operated like a state with sails. From the Persian Gulf to Japan, it left its mark. In 1610, it gained permission to build a post near the Ciliwung River, and by 1619, it captured Jakarta, renaming it Batavia. For 300 years, Batavia became the company's command hub, shaping the region politically, culturally, and economically. But vision alone wasn't enough. The VOC needed capital. They turned to ordinary citizens with a revolutionary idea: the world's first initial public offering. Ownership in the company could be bought, sold, and traded freely. Investors were protected by limited liability. If a ship sank or trade collapsed, personal wealth was safe, This was the blueprint for modern finance. The VOC's method spread across Europe, influencing London, Amsterdam, and eventually America. William of Orange, born into the House of Orange-Nassau, embodied this fusion of capital and governance. His mindset would later reshape England in global finance. The VOC wasn't just a trading company. It was an empire built on markets, foresight, and financial innovation, a corporate sovereign that rewrote the rules of wealth and power. By 1688, England was in political turmoil. King James II had lost the trust of Parliament and much of the population. Tensions were high, and the British leaders were searching for a Protestant claimant to the throne. Their eyes fell on James' daughter, Mary, who was married to William of Orange. William sailed to England with troops, but he brought more than an army. He brought a mindset shaped by the Dutch Republic. He saw markets not as distractions from power, but as tools to sustain it. This perspective transformed what history calls the Glorious Revolution. Soon, William and Mary II ascended the English throne as joint monarchs. But this wasn't just a political shuffle. It was a financial revolution. England launched the Bank of England, created public credit, introduced government bonds, and began funding wars through capital markets, all inspired by Dutch innovations. Long before William stepped onto English soil, Dutch ships had crossed the Atlantic. In 1609, the VOC's vessel, the Have Main, sailed to the harbor that would become New York City. By 1624, the Dutch West India Company founded New Amsterdam at the southern tip of Manhattan. At first glance, it was just a trading outpost. But the city's layout told a different story: organized streets, strong trade networks, and a diverse population. The Dutch were crafting a commercial hub, laying the foundation for what would become a financial center of the New World. When the British took over in 1664, renaming it New York, they didn't erase the Dutch influence. Much of the legal framework, financial habits, and commercial customs remained because they worked. Amsterdam's approach to credit, contracts, and trade flowed seamlessly into British practice. Meanwhile, across Europe, Amsterdam and London were developing complementary financial systems. Amsterdam favored banks and public credit, while London leaned into speculation and fast-moving markets. By the 1700s, the financial elites of both cities began collaborating, creating a powerful blend of reliability and innovation. This influence crossed the Atlantic. New York inherited the Dutch financial DNA, combined with British market practices. Over decades, these foundations transformed a port town into a global financial engine. The legacy of Dutch finance shaped banking, trade, and corporate governance, not just in Europe, but across the world. The VOC was revolutionary. It transformed trade, corporate finance, and state power. But even giants have limits. By the late 1700s, cracks began to appear. Oversight lagged behind rapid expansion, corruption spread, and internal divisions deepened. Military costs rose, and competition from Britain and France intensified. Despite its monumental reach, the VOC could not withstand the weight of its own ambitions. By 1795, it was no longer all-powerful. Eventually, in 1796, the Dutch government nationalized the company. Its charter expired quietly, marking the end of the VOC as a corporate empire, yet, the legacy of the VOC endured. Its ideas shaped modern finance, legal frameworks, and multinational models. Today, in the Netherlands, the influence is visible everywhere. While it no longer rules the seas, Dutch financial power continues to move across borders with remarkable influence. The Netherlands consistently ranks among the most competitive industrial economies in the world. It attracts global capital, especially from the United States, and boasts remarkable foreign direct investment, over $4.3 trillion inbound and $5.2 trillion outbound. Dutch holdings abroad exceed $3.5 trillion, an astounding figure for a country smaller than California. Behind this immense network of capital, the House of Orange-Nassau continues to cast a long shadow. Their crown may be ceremonial, but their influence is tangible. From defense to energy to corporate governance, they hold stakes in companies like Shell, maintain wealth through trusts and investment vehicles, and shape powerful corporate forces globally. In 1907, the Royal Dutch merged with Shell Transport and Trading Company, forming Royal Dutch Shell, a titan that would dominate the global energy sector for over a century. This was another Dutch enterprise carrying both capital and royal backing. Shell is not alone. Several European financial institutions trace their origins to Dutch foundations. Their operational and legal frameworks echo the VOC era. The legacy of Dutch finance and corporate power is alive today, quietly shaping modern capitalism, multinational corporations, and global markets, yet, it's critical to acknowledge the darker side of this empire. The VOC's expansion in Asia was brutal. The Banda Islands massacre nearly exterminated the indigenous population, replacing survivors with Dutch settlers. The Ambon massacre executed English and Japanese traders accused of plotting against Dutch forts. The Batavia massacre led to thousands of civilian deaths in modern-day Jakarta. The VOC also relied heavily on forced labor, especially in spice-producing regions. Indigenous populations were compelled to cultivate crops for Dutch profit. Violence was routinely used to suppress resistance, control trade routes, and enforce company dominance. So, while the VOC advanced global finance and commerce, it did so on a foundation of oppression and exploitation. Its story reminds us that power and capital are inseparable, and the pursuit of empire often comes at a human cost. The House of Orange recognized early on that capital could surpass crowns. They transformed trade into a hybrid of corporate and state power, scaling that model across continents and centuries. Today, Dutch influence in finance, energy, and trade continues to be felt worldwide, a testament to an empire built on markets, not monarchs. By the early 20th century, Dutch influence in global trade had evolved into a new form of corporate power. The House of Orange-Nassau and the financial networks they had nurtured laid the foundation for modern multinational corporations. Among these, Royal Dutch Shell emerged as a symbol of Dutch capital, strategy, and reach. The story begins in 1907, when Royal Dutch merged with the Shell Transport and Trading Company, a British firm. This merger was more than a corporate arrangement, it was a masterstroke of strategy. Royal Dutch brought expertise in production and refining, while Shell offered transport, logistics, and a powerful trading network. Combined, they created an entity capable of challenging any global competitor. Ownership was split 60/40, with Royal Dutch holding the majority. This arrangement allowed both sides to leverage their strengths while maintaining operational continuity. Shell retained its directors and management, ensuring stability and institutional memory. The merger transformed a regional trading firm into a global energy powerhouse, ready to compete on the same stage as the giants of the industrial age. Royal Dutch Shell's rise coincided with the rapid expansion of the global petroleum industry. Oil had become the lifeblood of modern economies. It powered ships, trains, factories, and cities. Control over oil meant influence over nations, markets, and technology. Shell understood this early and invested heavily in securing supply. Building refineries, and establishing a network of tankers and shipping routes, the company's strategy combined logistics with marketing. Shell's distinctive red and yellow branding became instantly recognizable worldwide. Every shipment, every refinery, and every storefront reinforced reliability, scale, and presence. It wasn't just about moving oil, it was about creating trust and dominance in every market. By the 1920s, Shell had established oil fields in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Long-term contracts ensured supply stability, protecting the company from the volatility of emerging oil markets. This approach gave Shell a competitive advantage over rivals like Standard Oil in the United States, which dominated production but could not match Shell's global logistics and distribution network. World events soon tested Shell's resilience. World War I turned petroleum into a strategic asset. Royal Dutch Shell supplied fuel for military operations on an unprecedented scale. This not only solidified the company's importance but also demonstrated how a corporation could operate as a quasi-state actor, managing resources critical to global conflicts. During this period, Standard Oil faced increasing scrutiny and political challenges in the United States. The Supreme Court's antitrust ruling in 1911 forced Standard Oil to dissolve its monopoly into smaller entities. Meanwhile, Shell moved forward internationally, establishing oil fields in Venezuela and Mexico. These strategic investments ensured long-term supply, stabilized cash flow, and allowed Shell to operate independently of the political pressures that constrained American oil companies. The House of Orange continued to influence Dutch corporate strategy. Their investments, connections, and oversight helped Shell navigate international markets, political risks, and regulatory environments. Though ceremonial in title, their involvement reinforced stability and confidence among investors and partners. By the 1920s, Shell had become more than a company, it was a global institution. Its corporate structure, financial strategies, and logistical networks allowed it to dominate international markets while maintaining flexibility and resilience. The lessons of the VOC, combining capital, governance, and strategy, were alive and applied in every decision. Yet, the story of Shell also highlights the ethical complexities of corporate power. Shell, like its predecessor the VOC, operated in regions with vulnerable populations. Labor exploitation, resource control, and environmental impact were often secondary to profit and strategic objectives. The company's growth exemplified the tension between economic innovation and the human cost of empire building. Despite these challenges, Shell's success was undeniable. By leveraging logistics, marketing, and long-term strategic planning, the company carved a path that others could not follow. It created a blueprint for modern multinationals: integrate vertically, invest globally, and maintain influence across political and financial networks. The rise of Shell demonstrates a key principle: control of infrastructure and markets can be more powerful than control of production alone. By focusing on transportation, distribution, and branding, Shell gained an advantage that allowed it to survive price wars, political upheaval, and global conflict. As we move through the 20th century, Shell's trajectory illustrates how a corporation can shape global energy systems, influence economies, and interact with governments. Its legacy is a combination of strategic vision, operational excellence, and the careful management of capital, networks, and power. Today, Royal Dutch Shell stands as a testament to Dutch ingenuity, the enduring influence of the House of Orange, and the global systems of trade and finance that were pioneered centuries earlier. It's a living connection to a history that began with VOC ships crossing oceans, merchants trading spices, and dynasties learning that capital could outrank crowns. From the VOC to Shell, the story is consistent. The combination of finance, governance, and strategic foresight can create empires that outlast kings, survive wars, and shape the global economy for centuries. And this brings us to the modern era, where Dutch influence continues quietly but powerfully across banking, energy, and multinational corporations. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the influence of Dutch capital is more pervasive than most people realize. The Netherlands may no longer rule the seas with fleets of armed merchant ships, but its financial reach is global, sophisticated, and quietly omnipresent. Dutch companies, funds, and investment vehicles manage trillions in assets across the world. The country consistently ranks among the most competitive economies, attracting foreign investment while maintaining a strong export-oriented industrial base. Foreign direct investment flows inwards exceed $4.3 trillion, while outward investments surpass $5.2 trillion. Dutch holdings abroad alone exceed $3.5 trillion, an astonishing footprint for a country with fewer residents than California. Behind this immense network of capital, the House of Orange-Nassau continues to cast a long shadow. While the crown is largely ceremonial today, their influence in industry, finance, and governance remains significant. They maintain stakes in corporations like Shell and other major firms, often discreetly through trusts and investment vehicles. These holdings allow the royal family to shape policy, corporate strategy, and investment decisions, blending tradition with modern financial power. Royal Dutch Shell is perhaps the clearest example of this legacy. The company, born from a merger over a century ago, has been at the forefront of global energy markets ever since. Shell's operations span continents, combining Dutch corporate principles, strategic foresight, and operational excellence. From shipping routes and refineries to marketing campaigns and supply contracts, the principles established during the VOC era continue to guide its approach. But Shell is not alone. The influence of Dutch business practices, financial engineering, and corporate governance extends across Europe and beyond. Institutions that trace their roots back to Dutch innovation continue to lead in banking, insurance, and global trade. The legal and corporate frameworks pioneered in Amsterdam centuries ago remain embedded in multinational strategies and investment law, yet, it is crucial to recognize the dual legacy of these enterprises. The VOC and its successors, including Shell, achieved unprecedented financial and strategic success, but not without consequences. Across Southeast Asia, indigenous populations were displaced, enslaved, or massacred to secure resources and maintain trade dominance. The Banda Islands massacre, Ambon executions, and the Batavia massacres are stark reminders of the human cost behind empire building. Forced labor, resource exploitation, and suppression of local governance were integral to maintaining control over trade routes and production hubs. These atrocities are inseparable from the story of corporate power. They highlight that the mechanisms of capitalism and empire often evolve together, shaping wealth and influence while generating suffering. It's a cautionary tale. Power and capital, when unchecked, can achieve extraordinary scale, yet exact a heavy human toll. Despite these dark chapters, the innovations of Dutch enterprise and the House of Orange shaped the modern economic world. They demonstrated how capital could operate independently of traditional monarchy, how corporations could function as quasi-sovereign entities, and how markets could wield influence once reserved for kings and empires. The VOC pioneered public investment, limited liability, and transferable shares, the foundations of modern corporate finance. These innovations laid the groundwork for global stock exchanges, multinational corporations, and the international capital markets we know today. The Netherlands today embodies this history. While it is no longer a colonial empire, its financial and corporate influence rivals many nation-states. From investment funds and multinational headquarters to offshore financial centers and trade hubs, Dutch capital moves efficiently and decisively across the globe. And at the center of much of this is the enduring legacy of the House of Orange-Nassau. Their early decision to invest in trade and finance rather than rely solely on crowns or land allowed them to adapt, survive, and remain influential for centuries. The story of Dutch capital, from the VOC to Shell and beyond, teaches a fundamental principle: the combination of strategic foresight, control of infrastructure, and financial innovation can create influence far more enduring than titles, armies, or fleets alone. Power shifted from the sword to the ledger, from the crown to the capital. And those who understood this shift first, like the House of Orange, shaped a world that still follows their blueprint. So when we look at modern corporations, multinational trade, and international finance, remember that many of the tools, structures, and strategies in use today trace their lineage back over 400 years. From the early shareholders of the VOC to the global energy conglomerates of the 20th century, Dutch innovation has quietly engineered the framework of capitalism itself. In the end, the $7.9 trillion empire nobody talks about isn't just history, it's a living system. It lives in boardrooms, investment portfolios, shipping routes, and corporate strategy meetings. Its fingerprints are on global finance, energy, and trade. And while kings and empires have faded, Dutch capital continues to shape the rules of the game. For modern investors, business leaders, and policy makers, the lesson is clear: understanding the origins, structures, and strategies of these silent empires is key to navigating the contemporary global economy. And the House of Orange, quietly but firmly, remains a guiding presence in that ongoing story. So, next time you think of global power, think beyond armies and political titles. Follow the capital, follow the trade routes, follow the structures that endure beyond generations. That is where the Real Empire lies, and that is the Dutch legacy, a testament to the power of innovation, strategy, and foresight that spans centuries.